the challenge of handling big and heavy inventory. My guest is Brenda Stoner. She is founder of Pickup. Hi, Brenda.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is turning out to be a big issue these days, and I just wondered if you could kind of discuss for me what has been the impact of the pandemic and resulting growth in e-commerce activity on the demand for large and bulky items.
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting couple of years, and supply chain and the pandemic and what omni-channel retail is trying to do. The customer experience is now king, right, in the post-pandemic era. So everybody wants super fast deliveries. You hear about groceries in 15 minutes, but along with that, people want flexible returns and a great experience, and those are table stakes now.
No, that's not
So,
too much to ask, is it?
well, it is. Well, it depends. It works great for parcels, right? Anything under 35 pounds is easy, right? I can drop my product at Kohl's. I can drop it at an Amazon return store. I can go to a UPS store. I can put it in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
But it's real challenge for a thing that's over 35 pounds because we don't really have the capability to do a fast return or necessarily even a fast delivery in that experience.
And it pretty much has to come to the home or the office or wherever that particular item is going to be used, right? I mean, there's no lock boxes where you can or go up and pick up a piece of furniture or something. So
that's a challenge. And in
yeah.
February 22 in Texas, we had a great freeze. My house, we had pipes burst, and I'm replacing everything in my house over the last year. So I've ordered a lot of big and bulky, and I've watched everybody's experience. And I'm going to tell you, dropping a sofa on my doorstep while I'm not home is not the experience that I expect. So
No.
From a sustainability perspective, all that packaging is left behind. I can't wrestle a 150-pound dresser into my bedroom by myself. So we haven't fixed the big and bulky part of the e-commerce solution. There's a dramatic problem there.
Not to mention, when it comes to certain large items, there's the so-called white glove service, the installation and assembly services that the deliverer should be presenting. And that's not an easy thing to do. You got to go in someone's house during the pandemic. That must have been a big challenge in the last couple of years.
It's been very interesting. And people continued to want people to come in their home, even during pandemic. Our guys would put on gloves and they would put on masks, and we would solve the problem. But if you think about an e-commerce purchase, so if I buy a mattress online, a bed in a box, for example, shows up at my door, it's 150 pounds if it's a king size. Somebody has to get it into the house. I sure don't want it to be me and the boxes are ruined by the time they get here if they've gone through a regular FedEx or UPS channel because they've been manhandled for quite some time. So the challenge is, how do you get it where it needs to go? And how do you create a brand extension that is appropriate for you? So if I spend $1,000 on a foam mattress and I have to wrestle it into my house and deal with the packaging, and God forbid I don't like it and I don't know what to do with it and I don't want to keep it, then I have another problem on my hands. So it's a significant challenge as we start looking at buying big and bulky sight unseen from e-commerce. And you've heard the recitations. 40% of most parcel is returned, and in big and bulky, it's somewhere between 20 and 40%. So what happens to that product? We can't put it in a landfill. Sustainability efforts say that's no good. And the margin erosion for a big and bulky product is dramatic if it stays in a home too long.
Yeah. Now, if you're returning an item of clothing, there's a good chance that the seller can reuse it.
That's correct.
Assuming you didn't wear it and ruin it. But to the extent that how many of these big and bulky items can go back into the sales channels versus how many just have to be destroyed or thrown away?
Yeah, it's a challenge. And if you think about that, if I buy a piece of furniture off of an online website, and I try to return it to a store where they have a local presence, if I'm lucky enough, and if I have the facility to be able to bring it back to a store, it may not be on the SKU list for the store. So the store now has a problem. I've just brought a piece of furniture back to their store that's not on their SKU list, and it's used. And what do they do with that? Their unified view of inventory isn't complete yet. So what do we do with it?
You're not answering that question because it's a difficult one to.
It's not answerable yet.
Right. What's the comparison? The ability to first of all, schedule a delivery of a big and bulky item, because you do want to be home, and then track its progress to the door so that me, the buyer, knows exactly where it is and when it's coming, versus being able to do that with smaller packages. Is it a different challenge or is it the same challenge?
Totally different challenge. And we started out, 8 years ago. We said, from an NPS perspective, or Net Promoter Score, the only way you make that customer satisfied is if you do a handshake with them at the door. Or you can deliver my T-shirt or and maybe an Apple Watch, but probably not, because of the value and the porch pirating going on. But we made sure that before we roll a vehicle, that we have an agreed upon meeting time, and that really helps. Then you have to meet the time and the delivery window, and you have to deliver on the promise of brand experience. So if I'm a luxury brand and I'm putting my product in my hands as a delivery company, I've got to make sure that I deliver the brand experience that somebody is expecting. And in an e-commerce transaction, the delivery personnel may be the only single human that touches the customer. And think about that. And if we outsource that to third parties indiscriminately, who knows what you get?
Right. But of course, we all know who gets blamed when something goes wrong.
The brand.
It's not, yeah, the brand does. It's not the pickup people, even if they're the ones who screwed up. So,
that's right.
But I guess customers no longer tolerate the bad old days when they said, okay, we'll give you an 8-hour window in which we're going to deliver this giant thing. And you just had to stay home all day. I mean,
You did.
how narrow can it be? How good a job can we do these days? And how much better can we do in absolute scheduling of the delivery of these big and bulky items?
I will tell you, it's very difficult. And we're all trying for a 2-hour window right now. And I will tell you that I have one client, and I can name them because it's in the press, but Big Lots and Pickup have done a same-day deliveries program throughout most of their stores throughout the continental US. And because they have local inventory and we have fast delivery, we've built a industry-leading program that is not matched anywhere. And no one amongst the big online retailers is able to deliver over 50 pounds within 2 hours. And so it's those two things you have to have that are significant elements. That forward inventory is critically important, and so is a reliable delivery service. And it's really, really hard to do with items that are over 50 pounds.
Brenda, thank you so much for at least posing the questions that need to be asked these days in terms of making sure that big and bulky and heavy inventory is delivered with maximum efficiency and meeting customer demands. I really appreciate you having this discussion with me. At this point, I'd like to pivot, though, and have you tell me a little bit about Pickup itself, a history of the company, and where you guys kind of play in this whole important market.
So we started in 2015. I'm the founder of the company. I've moved a lot of these big and heavy items myself, but we look at this as an elevated delivery experience for certain classes of product. So it's not for everything, but for high value items and high convenience items, or when you want real pure customer delight, we use an appropriate footprint of an asset and a highly vetted workforce to deliver on that. So think about experiential delivery couriers for items over 50 pounds going less than 50 miles. And that flexibility is integrated with technology to make sure that we provide, again, that elevated delivery experience. We've got to surprise and delight customers on this stuff.
This is a technology, I take it, that might not have even been possible just a few years ago, right?
Correct.
What makes it possible now?
I think just technology is advancing. We're thinking about things differently. We have this fleet asset and the kind of the marketplace dynamics that have emerged. There's a lot of different market dynamics that are now converging to make this suddenly possible.
Yeah. You folks are certainly on the firing line of a very demanding business, and a lot of brands depend on you to get their product to the customers and keep them happy. So, Brenda Stoner, it was a pleasure speaking with you today about the challenge of handling heavy and big items, as well as a little bit about Pickup itself. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert.